fans. So obviously a lot of support, for this coach as he battles this treatable but still very harsh condition.
Chuck Pagano at 51 years old, certainly one of those situations that will affect the remainder of his life. They're putting reportedly an ATRA kind of acid, an all-trans retonic acid reportedly into his system. That'll take a matter of 4 to 6 weeks reportedly, perhaps even more time if things don't turn out well. But as Chuck Pagano is trying to heal and trying to get better as quickly as possible for his football team, the offensive coordinator will take over the coaching duties. That's Bruce Arians, and obviously a lot on tap for Jim Irsay, the owner of this squad, over the next few weeks. How does he handle the football team, and how does this Colts squad rally around what is an ailing head coach? And obviously, it's a tough situation for the Colts, already seemingly a year in transition for Indianapolis. So just pack as many wins as possible. And for Indianapolis, right now a huge disappointment as Chuck Pagano at age 51 diagnosed with leukemia.
Yeah, it's definitely, going to be something, very hard for him to deal with. It's obviously something that nobody saw coming. It was definitely very surprising for pretty much anybody but Mr. Pagano, because again, he had felt differences physically since the preseason reportedly, but he just wanted to give the team a chance to make some sort of a smooth transition. Obviously, these things are never easy, so it will be interesting to see if this affects the Colts in any way. Here's a team that is clearly still in rebuilding mode, so to have another hurdle on top of that is definitely going to reflect the character of this team.
Indianapolis certainly in rebuilding mode, and Chuck Pagano will be missed, but he is reportedly supposed to be back within the next few weeks. Now that the amount of time that he's out of the head coaching duties has yet to be determined. Now we will take a quick game break over to Chicago and Dallas as we have a score update. And Phil, take it away with the game over in Dallas.
Well, the Chicago Bears are adding on to their score here as Jay Cutler completes a 34-yard touchdown pass to Devin Hester, bringing the score 17-7 as they now take a somewhat commanding 10-point lead as the Bears try and actually get some offense going. A nice strike to Devin Hester is definitely what the doctor ordered for this team.
For the first time all day, Chicago is leading the total yardage battle with a 185 to 179 advantage. We'll take more looks inside the Dallas and Chicago game as the hour rolls on. And as we mentioned earlier on, just the Indianapolis Colts in transition mode this year. Same with the Denver Broncos. Now, it was reported, obviously, the big story was Peyton Manning coming to town. And in this big win against the Oakland Raiders, certainly a topic up for discussion at 2-2 now for the Broncos, but not to mention a lesser-known story is that the Broncos retooling the playbook now. It's Peyton Manning's team. It's not Tim Tebow's team. Got to add a lot more passes, into that playbook. And right now, after a big win, the Broncos is certainly getting back on track after 2 straight losses. And right now, I know it's hard to look at Denver and see them as a consistent football team. They've been anything but that. But right now, Phil, what to make after a big dominating win? The Oakland Raiders are not a top 5 football team, but to beat any NFL team 37-6 as handedly as they did, certainly a positive for the Broncos. How do you see this win for Denver moving forward?
Well, you look at the game from last week where Peyton Manning throws 3 interceptions against the Atlanta Falcons defense in the first half. Peyton Manning, if he's half the man he used to be, that he's going to come back with a huge performance. Here's a guy at 30 of 38 for 338 yards and 3 touchdowns, just carving up the Raiders. He was a surgeon out there on Sunday. And this is a team, you look at this team and you expect, them to do good and, be in the playoffs. But here's a team that, as you said, are slightly still rebuilding, but not in the sense of the talent, but just gelling the talent that they do have together. And you can see that Peyton Manning, after 4 weeks, is definitely starting to learn this Denver offense. Because as you brought up earlier, this is a team that, not too long ago was running almost a spread option offense with Tim Tebow as their quarterback. They obviously, the differences between Tim Tebow and Peyton Manning are as different as light and day. So you look at this team, and with Peyton Manning on this team, They definitely are changing up the offense completely, and you can see the Peyton Manning is slowly learning this offense even better. And later on down the road, this season and next season, and for seasons to come, the Denver Broncos could be a force in the AFC.
Absolutely. And for the Denver Broncos, it's also earlier on in the year now. Peyton Manning, with that neck injury, you never know what you're getting out of him. But with 8 TDs of 3 picks and the only 3 INTs coming in that game against the Atlanta Falcons, it's tuning the pass attempts down. Now, in that game against the Texans last week, throwing the ball 52 times. Now, he was able to make a comeback against the Texans and almost defeat them, at home, but obviously not a recipe for success early on in the year. And the other situation that favors the Broncos, they're 2-2, but they have a tough 2-2. Now, their remaining 2 games before the bye week, seemingly one of those that you would not like to have, but a trip to New England and a trip to San Diego before the bye week. If you can exit into your break with a 3-3 record, certainly a positive situation for Denver. And then after the bye, you have an extremely easy schedule. The Saints, the Bengals, trip to Carolina, then the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, and the Raiders again. You just spank them 37-6. For the Denver Broncos, getting to the bye in as good of a position as possible will seemingly, give the Broncos leaps and bounds into the other side of the break, as right now they're a team that's rolling and has an easy schedule following the bye.
Yeah, it's definitely, a situation where they're going to have to, get to that bye week. You want at least to be 500. If you can be higher than that, that's even better. But this is a team, they're getting better, little by little. And this is a team that clearly is going to get better as the season goes on. They have not reached their peak as far as performance goes yet.
The Denver Broncos, I see them still. They're the only team in the entire NFL, or especially the AFC, that I see them not winning the division now, but can make a comeback, as they have perhaps the toughest opening schedule of the entire NFL heading into the bye week. We take a quick game break now as we have more action over in Dallas. Phil, what do you have for us?
As this game goes on, Dallas is trying to drive into Chicago's territory, and they were making quite success. They were out to about the 27-yard line in Bears territory. Tony Romo tries to fit one in to Jason Witten. It actually bounces off of his hands and is intercepted, this time by Kendall Wright. So that's 2 interceptions on the day so far for this Bears defense, as a huge momentum swing. The Cowboys were pretty close to knocking on the door in the red zone, and the Bears come up with a huge defensive stand.
Obviously a positive for Chicago, already leading 17-7. Perhaps a statement game for Chicago as they try to come back off of that disappointing loss to the Green Bay Packers. Now we have Noel Booker. Obviously we are looking for interaction on every show, and always appreciate fans trying to chime in into the show. And Noel Booker is on the line. Noel, how are you doing, man? And obviously a very entertaining week 4. Thanks for coming on the show, Noel.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'm always glad to help out, and I always have some interesting topics for the week's show.
Absolutely, thanks, Noel. And we were just on the topic. Or go ahead.
The main topic I want to discuss with you guys is Falcons. How do you guys think the Falcons are doing? Do you think they'll stay undefeated for a long period of time?
Absolutely. Noel Booker, being an Atlanta fan, we have to take a trip to the Falcons. Right now, after a 4-0 start, we'll get to the 4-0 teams later on in the contest, but just a quick opinion from me. I feel like the Falcons later on, they are just not the defense that will win. I don't see them being a dominant defense. It's a no-name squad on the defensive side. And the Carolina Panthers with an almost upset win in Atlanta. But the hometown squad, obviously, with a big win. I feel like the Falcons will round out at something like a 12-4 or a 13-3 maybe. But right now at 4-0, looking hot, but I don't see the defense proving strong down the stretch. Phil, do you agree?
I look at that game last night, and, you really got to give Matt Ryan and the Falcons credit. Here's a team with under a minute to go. They're pinned at their own 1-yard line, and Matty Ice drives down the field for a game-winning field goal. I could see this team it seems almost apparent that they're gonna win their division. The Saints are 0-4, the Bucks are up and down, and the Panthers can't seem to complete games. So I think the NFC South is almost going to be handed to them on a silver platter this year. So I could easily see them. I agree with you, winning 12 to 13 games, depending on how that defense plays for the rest of the year.
Now, Noel, we have a question rounding it back over to you. Now, the Atlanta Falcons, even though 4-0 and playoff bound, do you see their main man in Matty Ice, Matt Ryan, being an elite NFL quarterback this year? He's certainly proving that as the highest quarterback rating throughout the first 4 weeks in all of football. Is Matt Ryan, Noel, is he an elite NFL quarterback with the elites of the Bradys and the Mannings?
Of course, in my opinion, this is probably going to be his best season in his career because he's already starting out pretty good. I mean, he's going against some pretty tough teams. And yesterday I was looking at the schedule, and they have a pretty tough schedule the rest of the way. Like, the only easy team they have will be the Buccaneers. And, that's the only easy team they have for the rest of the schedule. Next week, they've got RG3. And after that, they play the Raiders, and after that, I believe it's a bye week. Yeah, the Falcons, they're definitely off to a good start, and Matt Ryan is the reason for it, I think. And you know what? I've kind of noticed a trend with how the Atlanta Falcons go. It's in 2008, Matt Ryan was really good. He made history and stuff. 2009, he didn't really show much. In 2010, they went 13-3. They were the best team in the NFC and everything. And then last year, they went back to normal and lost in the wild card. But this year, they're off to a good start. So that's kind of a trend I'm seeing with the Atlanta Falcons.
Absolutely. For Atlanta, it's as long as the quarterback can provide a spark in the defense. I mentioned earlier, if they can get some key plays, they'll certainly be the Falcons a team to reckon with over in the NFC. Thanks, thanks, Noel, for having us. And any remaining thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I have two. One, Lance Briggs just got a pick six, so it's 24-7 now. And did you guys already talk about the controversial call of the season?
We'll get to that later on in the show, Noel. We'll obviously also give the fans every game break that we can. Right now, the Bears with a big pick six, as you mentioned, Noel. Thanks, Noel, for having us. And, of course, you're always welcome. We appreciated another week of Noel Booker on the NFL goal line. Thanks, Noel. And now we will tune over to more Atlanta Falcons football let's go over to Chicago. As you mentioned, Lance Briggs pick six. It's now 24-7. And right now, statistically, Chicago Bears not dominant, but dominant on the scoreboard. And right now for Dallas, if they do lose this game, Phil, we'll go really quick into Dallas Cowboys football because at 2-2 on the year, after a dominant Week 1 win, to round out 1-2 in your remaining 3 weeks, how disappointing is that as a football team? And for the Dallas Cowboys, they have the quarterback that's in his prime now, and it's disappointing that the talent around him is not performing, especially this year.
Well, the interesting thing about this game going on here is when I initially called for that game break, it was because the Dallas defense had actually made a big play, and Jay Cutler had fumbled, and the Cowboys had recovered it deep in Bears territory. They're at, yet again around the 25, 27-yard line of the Bears territory. And on the very next play, Tony Romo, I'm not even sure that it was a pick six. It looked to me as he got hit and the ball popped out and then never hit the ground. So it might even be ruled a fumble recovery for a touchdown. As Noel was saying, Lance Briggs was the one bringing it in. But two big defensive plays back-to-back. As you see, the Cowboys did not have a chance to capitalize on their defense's big play. And, it will be very difficult, for this team, if the Cowboys lose. Because, again, as we brought up earlier, you just don't want to fall behind in that division race when you got teams like Philadelphia and Washington that are playing well right now.
And the Dallas Cowboys also with a 2-2 start. They have a tough remaining schedule, and even though they defeated the Giants, they still have the Eagles twice, and they still have the Giants as well. And in that NFC East, you never know what's happening with the Washington Redskins.